Yup, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Hey y'all, welcome to Goblin. This is our 1985 Catalina 30 tall rig, which is probably one of the most common sailboats ever produced. We've been fixing them up since the winter of 2023 when we bought them. Up in Catawba Island here in Ohio, sailed him home to Cleveland in April, and we've been fixing him up and sailing him and racing him ever since. This channel is going to be covering kind of our ongoing repairs and refit of systems throughout the whole boat. It's an old plastic bathtub of a sailboat. Over the next couple months, we're going to be fixing up even more in preparation for the Bayview Mackinac race next year, for the Mills race next year, so that we can keep distance sailing and distance racing this boat. There were problems, like I'm standing on top of a section of the core that we replaced last year, continuing the recoring to kind of get things nice and not wet. Checking on all of the chain plates, checking on everything about the shrouds. We need to do some work around the tow rail, probably removing it for now completely and glassing the hull joint. Another of the big projects for this year is everything related to this pedestal and honestly this cockpit sole. So if I grab this guy up here, you can see that this is delaminated. You can see the plastic moving and you can see all the stress cracks. So this area is definitely full of water. We also need to replace the bowsprit because I want to move this boat from being kind of an 80s cruiser design to more like a more modern boat in terms of its head sail. So I think what we want to do is move this roller furler back to here because we actually don't lose a ton of sail area, and I only use a 135 instead of a 155 Genoa, but we'd give up a little bit of this head sail, but just a tad. Like this sail would probably even fit. And in exchange, bump this bowsprit out to like here. And what that would give us is an outside point beyond the pulpit where we could jive a kite. So we could put an ASIM or a code 0, you know, 2 tack points, 1 for each. And then those can go up to the spinnaker crane up top. Just give us a lot more options and fly a lot more sail area up here. We need to redo the stanchions. We need to recore underneath the main cockpit winches, our primary winches, because down inside here is pretty nasty. And I don't really like that being what's holding the winch in right now. There's also tons of areas where the gel coat's just in rough shape. You can see all these places where little patches have been made over the years before we bought the boat. The cockpit, for example, every surface was covered in this like foam non-skid, and we need to figure out how to remove all the adhesive out of the molded non-skid and probably apply a new non-skid because it's just in really rough shape right now. Another big thing that we have to handle this year are all of the windows. We've had drips through all of the cabin top hatches and it's just not sustainable. And that all sounds like it's going to be a ton of work, and it is going to be a ton of work. It's going to be itchy, it's going to be sweaty, it's going to be expensive, but it's worth it because then you get everything together and you get to go sailing. We've put thousands of miles on this boat as is. And all we're doing is fixing it so it can keep going for years and years and years to come. So why did we buy this boat? Why did we buy a Catalina 30? First of all, these are very cheap. They're not the cheapest boat that you can buy, but among keel boats that you can actually go and live on for a couple days, this has probably the most interior space. They're the most produced production boat that I know of. There's like 5,000 or 6,000 of these built, and then they basically didn't change it for a couple more versions too. So there's parts available, there's community available, and I can go online and buy sails. I can go on eBay and buy a new head door for the bathroom downstairs. You can kind of just keep the boat living because there's parts. So that was the reason number one. Number two, just like I am right now, I solo sail a lot. So I wanted something that was small enough and light, not that this is a light sailboat by any means, but light enough that I'd feel comfortable maneuvering it on my own. Because I usually go out, this is November 1st, 2025, and it's cold, it's November 1st, and it's pretty light out. So it was actually a great morning to come out and go sailing. I woke up and I went, you know what, let's go to the lake. And I needed a boat that I could just go whenever I felt like it and go sailing without having to worry about finding a bunch of crew. And that means setting up a boat in a way that's compatible with that. And there's a bunch of people who have done it for this sailboat. So we were able to lean on a lot of previous knowledge to be able to get the boat into a place where I can comfortably single-hand it. That said, it's also big enough and beamy enough, this is like an almost 11 feet wide, it's big enough that you can put multiple people on it for a couple days and it's fine. We had 4 people on board for the Bayview Mackinac last year, and that was perfect. We could definitely do it with less people, but I'm not sure how many more I'd feel super good about having on board at the same time. We had plenty of water in the tanks. We had plenty of space in the Blackwater tank. We had more than enough room for food and comfortable and enough bunks that everyone could sleep. And I wanted that because if we do want to do distance travel, or if we want to go cruising around the lakes or go to the islands for a weekend, we can actually have people on board. We have more than enough space for 2 or 3 couples for a night. And that was one of the big goals, is something that we can use for the races, that we can use for single handing, and is just flexible enough that we could also then use for fun, just to go mess around. So we really wanted a sailboat that was flexible enough to do all of the things we wanted to do with it, and cheap enough that we could afford to do so. And this checked both of those boxes perfectly, despite being in kind of rough condition. So now we're back here in the cockpit, and I just want to show you a little bit about this boat and how we have it set up. Before I do that though, I'm going to turn us a little bit that way. I've got the autopilot down here that is driving for us right now. And let's just kind of go away from these rocks. So this is usually where I stand when I'm out single-handing, because the autopilot's honestly got the driving down. If the weather's really heavy and the autopilot's slipping, I'll definitely take the helm. But most of the time I want to be able to control the sails. So I've got my general winches and my primary winches down here on the cabin top. And right now we got the general furled up because there was almost no wind a minute ago. We'll probably get it out in a second. We've also got our main sheet and traveler system. We've got our main sheet here on the traveler. I also have a fine tuner that you can see up there, where this is on a cascade with the actual main sheet. And that means that when it's heavy out, I can have two-sided control of the main without having to reach in and try to blow something that's super, super heavily loaded. I can move the traveler left, right. We put in this straight traveler back last year. The benefit of having something where it's a straight traveler like this is that the factor one has a curve. And that means that when it gets tight up at the top, you actually can't move it down because it would have to make the sheet longer. So we've got this nice, straight, long, really beefy beam traveler. Garhauer makes as a retrofit for these boats. They also made all these stands and all of our lever cleats. Absolutely love Garhauer. And this has been an amazing upgrade because by stock, the main sheet runs down and along this side and comes to one of the cleats, or one of the lever cleats. And you meant to control it on a winch because you don't have enough purchase. I love being able to blow this from the wheel because I can just slide this line back and you can just pop it off the cleat. I can do the same thing with these lockouts on the fine tuner. But yeah, we try to lead everything back so I can access it from the cockpit. Up here on the cabin top, I have the primary winches, which are Lumars. They're 16s, which is super undersized. They're not very fast and they're single speed, but they fit here on the cockpit coaming, or they fit here on the coach roof. So we have them. They'll probably get upgraded at some point. Just like these primary winches are way too small. For the loads that we handle with the big Genoa out, these are just not quite cutting it. So one of the things when we upgrade these two coamings, try to refill them with something that is not rotted, like the plywood that's in there right now. We might have to make a pad so that they can kind of go beyond their current footprint, but that's probably one of the upgrades for this year as well. You'll notice I have all of the halyards led back, including topping lift. I've got a spinnaker and Genoa halyard. The spinnaker's up on a crane up on the mast-set. I'll show you a picture of that. That's to keep it from interfering with the roller furler. And then my roller furling Genoa that's always up is over here. So I use the main for this side. It's my main halyard. And then I've got the backstay over in the back because we have an adjustable backstay on this boat. Yeah, and that's kind of my normal place to be when we're out sailing, because I can pretty much control the whole boat from standing right here. One of the other reasons I really like the Catalina 30 is this giant lazarette down here. We have tons of space for whatever we need, and we can access it from the cockpit without having to go downstairs. I can get to a trash can, I can get to my boat hooks, and I also have all of my safety equipment and my ditch bag and everything over on the other side. So I have access to whatever I need from actually being out here in the cockpit. And I have my cup holders, so I can have my tea. So, we're kind of at the end of the harbor, and I don't really want to go out there because it was super windy last night. And we're going to want to go basically back where we came from, so it's probably going to be a tack. So we're gonna come through here, harden up, figure out where that leaves us, and then see what kind of angle we can get on the way home. Now that we're heading upwind and there's some wind to have, we should probably get the genoa out. So what it looks like is that to go where we want to go, which is down the channel again, we have now become dead into the wind. So that's fun, but we should probably tack back over and get some space away from this wall. So there are over 6,500 Catalina 30s out there in the world, split between tall rig and bowsprit versions like this one, like Goblin is, standard rig ones, which are the first ones with fin keel, wing keels at the bottom, with a shoal draft. They made this for basically anyone who wanted a cheap sailboat that was built relatively well in the 80s. This was the family cruiser, this was the minivan. They're not, I struggle to say it's a slow boat, because it's not a slow boat, it's fine. It's not a fast boat, but this is meant to be a minivan. So I've got tons of space downstairs, a bunch of lockers and storage and places to sit and cup holders. And you see that when we're trying to beat up down the Cleveland Channel right now, because I can barely point into the wind. And unfortunately the wind's dying, which is really bad for a boat that is heavy and is wide. We're down to about 4 knots of true wind. So we're gonna keep beating this direction until we get past the old Coast Guard station, go past NS1, and we'll work on getting the sails down. So as we get ready to take the sails down, time to start the engine. That's where the factory engine panel would have been. It's one of the projects for this year is to fill that hole. Basically every gauge on it was dead, and now there's a piece of wood. If I want to start the engine, it's actually going to be here in the dashboard as part of the digital switching system. So we're sailing, but we need to be motoring. And there we go. Make sure we have water. Okay, so we're straight into the wind. It means we can furl up. Okay, so now that we're back from sailing, I can show you a little bit downstairs. This boat was designed, like I said earlier, as like a minivan of sailboats. So you've got this area that can be a fold-down dinette, or you put this down and you have infill cushions and this becomes a bed. You've got one person worth of sleeping right here. This is usually where I go. A quarter berth, which is currently full of sails. So we've got our ASIM and our heavy weather jib and the fridge. We have a gimbaled alcohol stove. I love this thing. They're very hard to find, but they basically run off of giant sterno type things. They're full of mineral wool and you just pour alcohol in and there's no pressure or anything, so it's really safe. But nice gimbaled stove with an oven. We've got an ice box, usually where drinks and food go. Sink with running water, but also a foot pedal that pulls lake water, which is gonna be gross. Then up here we've got the head, which we also have an electric flush toilet in here. and running water. And then our V-berth, you can imagine this is kind of the place to sleep when you're at dock or at anchor. And then we've got a hatch, and every hatch leaks. So this winter is going to be big hatch time. And then the entire boat is on an inverter charger, which goes back here. And that right now is charging our batteries and also inverting to give us 120 so that we have power on all the outlets while we're out sailing, which is awesome because right now the fridge does not have a DC plug-in, it's just plugged into the inverter. That's one of the projects for this year. It's not tiny, it's not huge, but it's the right size for 1 or 2 or maybe 4 people for a little bit. So yeah, this is Goblin. Thanks for watching, and thanks for following along as we keep getting Goblin back up into sailing shape. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see what it takes to put a boat like this back together. And if you want to complain about the way that I do it, go ahead and leave a comment. Or if you just have some advice about what we could do better and what we can improve. The biggest thing for us with this boat is remembering that the point of having a boat is to go sailing. So we do all this work, we fix it up, and then we use it. Fix what you need to fix, and follow along as we get this boat even more ready for the types of races and the way that we want to use it.